One of the best things about being young and just starting out is that you don't necessarily have a direct path, and that there's so many opportunities and so many possibilities and so many different paths ahead. There's so many opportunities and so many things out there, and it's really, really scary to a certain extent, not knowing what's up ahead.
I'm afraid of not knowing what the heck I want to do and just being in limbo after I graduate. I'm just afraid that with that change, will I just be thrown out there?
One of the things I feel is like all until this point you've kind of always been on some sort of path. High school, then college, there's kind of always been instructions until now.
What's going to happen? We don't know.
Right now, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I know I like activism, and I know I like planning rallies and organizing events and social justice on campus, but I don't know what kind of career I can make of that.
I really feel like I'm at a point where I'm trying to translate all these interests and passions into something practical. And I know one thing that I'm interested in is storytelling in all of its forms, so whether it's photography, filmmaking, interviewing. So I think I would love to do something that gives people the opportunity and the context to share their stories.
So you want to be a teacher, right, Vanity? Broadcast journalism is now something that I really want to do. I want my own show. I want to be more of a window for people to have a voice.
Right now, I'm so unsure about myself and where to go in life. I wish I had some guidance.
It'll be interesting to, interview women that grew up when women didn't have the rights that we have, and they had a really different set of choices that were available to them.
Just that interaction of somebody who's just starting out and somebody who is so accomplished and has done all these things, just that meeting I think is going to be really, really special.
Yeah, I bet Christy Todd Whitman never knew she was going to be the first female.
I know, I was just thinking that. She was the former governor of New Jersey. I mean, how do you plan that in your wildest dreams? How do you ever think that that's like going to be what you are one day, I'm nervous that I don't know her and that she doesn't know me. What she accomplished when she was governor, I think that her leadership style, the way she views herself is a big part of what makes her great to me.
I think what I'm excited most about is just Faith Ringgold as a character in general, and I think she has such an interesting story and she's such a lively person to talk to.
I'm excited. And the fact that she's an artist is probably what draws me the most. I guess I'm a little nervous. We come from really different backgrounds, but that's part of what's so cool and so exciting, that we're just completely different.
I'm going to be interviewing Coach Vivian Stringer. She's the only coach, male or female, to take 3 different schools to a Final Four. I feel that I can learn so much more through a one-on-one interview. I think her most important quality is her dedication and how much she cares. I think that what I will learn will shape my life and will impact the way that I eventually lead.
I'm excited about interviewing Charlotte Bunch because she was able to make her activism a career and professionalize it.
She works in the UN to help promote women's rights. She's someone who I'd like to mirror my career off of.
That's why I think it'll be great to talk to someone like Mary Hartman.
She's a great teacher. Her journey just really inspires me.
Ask her if she had a plan, and if she knew what she wanted to do, or if she changed her pathway.
I think the interview with Mary Hartman is going to teach me a lot about myself.
The first time I remember imagining anything was wanting to become a stewardess. Many women in my generation, at my age, wanted to become stewardesses and forget all this stuff about Freud and sex and flying and all that stuff. It was about getting away. If you grew up in the 50s, you wanted to get away.
What was it like growing up in the Harlem Renaissance?
It's nice to come up in a period where great changes are being made. And that was my period, from the 30s to the 60s, radical changes being made. Who I saw that shaped me as a young person were the musicians. Thurgood Marshall and W.E.B. Du Bois, those people lived in my street. Aaron Douglas did also. There was a tremendous cultural activity going on in Harlem.
What was that first step into activism?
What shaped a lot of my view was really the experience of the Black Civil Rights Movement in the South. I saw leaders of that movement, many of whom at that point were black men who came out of the church, who came out of a tradition of speaking the truth and using that to mobilize people. I was very inspired. This was an exciting thing to do, that you could really organize around a vision of what you wanted to see happen.
What would you say is some advice that you could give to someone like me, being that I'm starting my career?
I think women are sometimes disinclined to be real risk takers, and there's nothing wrong with failing. I mean, you don't want to do it all the time, that's for sure, but you learn a lot. It's important to learn what you don't like. It's important to learn where your weaknesses are. It's a question of being willing to take some of those risks, though, to try things that are new.
When you were in your 20s, what did you see yourself accomplishing? What were your goals or aspirations?
I had lots of dreams. I always saw myself doing great things. I just felt good about me. I just felt like, yeah, you could be a concert pianist. Yeah, you could be a track star. Yeah, you could be a judge. I never thought about basketball, honestly, because I only saw myself playing. You know, it wasn't until after I graduated and actually started coaching, and I realized that there were no opportunities for girls who had played sports before. And I thought, well, I need to find a way to get involved, you know, and stay involved in sports.
What were some of the obstacles you faced as a black artist coming up during that period?
In school, I was taught to copy the great masters of European art. And I think it really crippled a lot of people. They had been told that black is ugly, it's invisible, you don't want to look at it, it's a bad thing. Generations of this. Black is awful, it's the wrong thing to be, and you're the wrong thing to be, you're nothing. Now here comes the Harlem Renaissance. The first time when black people felt comfortable about showing their own image, painting themselves black. And Aaron Douglas did those first black paintings. Artists had to deal with that. A lot of them were opposed.
When I went to graduate school, my professor, who was a lovely man, said to me, "How do you justify taking the place of a man?" This was just standard issue for the males to say to the women. But then what happened to me when I came to Douglas, we had a college that was encouraging women such as myself to go ahead and take that risk.
What characteristics do you possess that allow you to transform the lives of the women you work with?
I don't know, you could probably tell me that better than I could tell you. You know, it's that look, you know how like sometimes I can really get on somebody.
Go over here and step it off, bring your butt up here.
And I hate to see them drop their heads, you know that. I just lose my mind. I hate to see them back down just because I said something, because it's just as important that they are mentally strong as they are physically gifted. My attempt is to make it so tough on you in practice that you're so confident, that you're cool and you're calm and you just know how to do it. And so while you might not appreciate it now, you know, you might be upset, you come to know that you'll handle all of that, because there is nothing that's too great for you to do if you really want it. And at the highest levels, to transfer, you know, the lessons that we learn, you know, in basketball, the responsibilities of everyone.
I think there were both attitudes and there were skills. I think the attitude that I had was, if you want to do something, you should try to do it, and not just wait for somebody else to show you how to do it. I don't even think I knew that in the beginning. I think I learned that I was good at organizing by trying to do it.
It took diligence. It took knowing who I am and not going away. Not necessarily getting mad, but just don't go away. I want to tell my own story, my way, okay? I think everybody has a right to that.
But you will find that with many women of my generation, the story is very similar. There was not a plan. You know, you just went kind of from one thing to another, and in many ways, I think that your generation is so much cannier, so much more with it than my generation was.
Well, it gives me hope because I don't really have a plan for my future.
Good. You don't have to. You're young.
What advice could you give me as a young woman with hopes of leadership in my future?
When I think about you, you have so much talent, and you've been, you know, soft and quiet. I don't ever want to disappoint the people that I'm talking to. I don't want to disappoint myself, you know, and you're the same way. The one thing that helped me that I would share is that if you're nervous, just say, I'm really nervous, so that people think, wow, I'm glad you said that, because I am too, you know.
I'm somebody who's just starting out with everything ahead, everything so intimidating and open, and if you could offer me one piece of advice, what would that be?
Well, of course, you cannot, you should not ever make something as an artist or even as a writer that is outside of your experience. Because women, I'm sure you know, their voices don't get to be heard. People don't ask their opinions of things that are happening in the world. It's the men that get asked. But as an artist, I don't have to wait for anybody to ask me anything. I can paint what I want. Now they can decide not to look, but it's there. And I did it. You have a voice, use it.
Do you feel a particular responsibility to the African American community, being one of the few African American women in a leadership position?
I feel a responsibility to all women. I want women to be comfortable and confident, and specifically for the African American female.
We do have a different set of life experiences. We do have a different way of looking at issues. We do have different ways of problem solving. In general, women are better at multitasking than men. We tend to be less possessive of our ideas. The woman puts forward an idea. To her, it's more important getting something done on the idea. How it actually looks at the end of the day isn't quite as important as getting some action in that area. So we're more willing to compromise, which many people say is a weakness. And it actually takes a lot of strength to give up on some of the things that you care about in order to get the bigger picture.
Women's presence around the table changes the conversation, introduces new subjects. It changes the way leadership is exercised. It changes the laws that are created. It changes the focus of deliberative bodies.
So we are different. Now, we give men more credit for life experience. We just make assumptions about their ability to handle problems that we don't make for women. But we do need that voice. We need that perspective.
Do you feel like a lot of your work has given you an opportunity to reach out and empower women? Is that something that's really important to you?
Well, every position I've had, I've tried to empower women by appointing women. I mean, as governor, it was the first woman chief of staff to a governor, the first woman who was Chief Justice of our state Supreme Court, and then a whole lot of women to other positions that were policy making that had traditionally been held by men. Not because they were women, because they happened to be very well qualified. But I did want to have women there as well, women and minorities, trying to expand that, because frankly, in today's world, the problems are so complex and so difficult that there isn't any one group that has all the answers. And white males do not have all the answers. You need to have a more diverse set of life experiences, more diverse backgrounds at the decision-making table.
I didn't start this work as a person with power in the UN. I started this work as a person who jumped up and grabbed the mic from those who had power to say something that wasn't being said. Part of my job now is to, in fact, find ways to help give the mic to people who don't have that access, because we won't find the answers if we don't hear from a wider range of people. You don't always have the path, just straightforwardly. You have to be more creative and you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that it's possible to do it, and you have to be willing to put yourself wherever you see possibilities to be engaged. And that means not waiting for the perfect job, not waiting for the career to fall into place, but really going to wherever you see action and possibility of making action.
Just stay there, persevere, and continue to pursue your dream. And don't believe it when people tell you you can't do it. You can.
What do you wish you would have known when you were 20 years old, when you were my age?
In some ways, I have to tell you, Nancy, knowing too little made it possible for me in those years to just keep on going. We still have a long ways to go when it comes to leadership. Women have always led. It's the context in which they led that we aren't aware of so much. Women have always led in their local communities, and only lately have they moved out into a wider world and begun to claim what I would regard as their rightful places in leadership. After all these years, women got the vote in this country in 1920, and we still have only 16% women in Congress. We have a very tiny number of women at the top levels of corporate leadership, under 3% in that particular area. Now, is it growing? Yes, it's growing. We have created an art now of inventing things, inventing ourselves, inventing our futures. And you are in a continuum of that phase of inventing yourself that is much further down the road than my generation was. Young people such as yourself have to make decisions much more consciously than even people in my generation did. It's partly good, it's partly bad. What's good about it is that you have more choices. What's bad about it is that you have more choices. And so it's a game in a way, but it's a much better game than even people in my generation had. For that, I envy you. What I don't envy you is you're going to have to recreate the world for the relationship between women and men in a more conscious way. But if you succeed, you're going to transform the way the outside world works for men and women in an absolutely incredible way.
The conversation was inspiring. She's definitely invested in not being a winning basketball coach, but in transforming the lives of young women.
I do know where I want to kind of take my focus. I still think that there's a lot more that I need to figure out.
Charlotte Bunch inspired me and made me more comfortable about the path I was about to embark on.
I can't help but think maybe we now as well are in this period of significant change, and we don't really think of it in those terms, but I really think we are.
She didn't know what path she was going to take, and look where she is now. And so I have so many opportunities, and they may be paralyzing, but whatever one I decide to choose in the future, having this knowledge from her, I'm going to be fine in whatever I do.
You have distinguished yourselves in many fields of endeavor throughout this university through research, study, fieldwork, internships, as well as service and leadership on this campus and throughout the greater community. Many of you have won awards for your work, and many deserve awards that will come in the future.
Wow, now it's up to me to say what's next.
And it just reassured me that I'm going to be able to do the things that I want to do.